Welcome to this very special episode of Tales from SYL Ranch Live. And I'm Bill Stone. Let me put my stupid freaking thing back into where I'm only doing... Oops, sorry. I got alerted to myself. Gotta love that. Let me turn DND on. Okay. So, hey Marshall, how's it going? I'm sure the censors will be watching closely. Glad the signal is 5x5. Wish I could have recorded this simultaneously. It's possible within open broadcast software, but when I've tried it, it gets weird. I will attempt to be as circumspect as humanly possible with regards to this topic. Hey, Jeanette, nice to see you here. So, on this very special episode of Tales from SYL Ranch, we will be talking about, of course, as we wait for some people to kind of trickle in, the weekly current Lancaster County, Nebraska virus statistics where I live. And we will also discuss that at least half of the members of the United States Democratic Party are Nazis. This is, of course, a live stream, so you're free to talk with me about anything that you want in chat. You can ask me about anything, whether it's political, social, the virus whose name I can't mention without risking the video being banned, the dystopian nightmare that the United States has become, or even things pertaining to science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, and other related genres. I far prefer talking about that stuff. I am happy, of course, to answer each and every question in as much detail, as truthfully as I can. There are some personal subjects that I won't discuss, but pretty much anything else is fair game. Now, I will get to as many of my viewers as humanly possible, as always with the caveat that it can't run much longer than 3 hours. I am having much better luck these days with my back. I've got a great chiropractor, but, 3 hours in a chair may still be a bit problematic, so we'll see how it goes. So now, to answer the question only Jeanette has ever asked, what are this week's virus statistics for Lancaster County, Nebraska, where I live? Well, as always, I source this with the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County Health Department. Thank you very much, Jeanette. It's better. It's, nothing makes the arthritis completely go away, but chiropractor has helped a lot. Yes, the Trump vaccine. We have the Trump vaccine out there. We'll talk about that in a bit. So, it is, of course, sourced with the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County Health Department. Link below, long link below, as always. Some of my statistics, I warn you, as I always do, are not the same as the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department. This is because they have completely made up out of whole cloth the population of the county, and I'm using an accurate count of the county's population, give or take a few hundred, people born, people die. Now, I'm not going to give out the increases from the last time that I did this because it's been weeks, month, I don't know how long it's been. And, that's useful to see the track as, the increases as you go along. But, in this case, it's been so long that there's really not much point in trying to do that. I'll just be giving you the stats, which were updated today at 09:32 hours UTC. As always, the total Lancaster County population remains roughly constant at 322,608. Jeanette says, just remember, my doctor gave you a better back, not a 20-year-old's back. Yes, yeah, that's certainly true. When I get older, I can get a spine transplant or something. But the way it is, I get calcified stuff between my bones. I'm just an old man. The total number of Lancaster County deaths is now at 378. This was a major uptick. We added about 100 people in a very short period of time. And they were added during our last mask order. We were all wearing masks, and about 100 more people died. Those must be really good. Hi, SuperCruise63. Nice to see you as well. So again, the major uptake here occurred during our last mask order, right in the middle of it. Ridiculous. We do now, again, because we saw this increase, and they all went, oh, my God, we had an increase during the last mask order. Let's do it again. So now we have a mask order that is supposed to end on February 11th, 2022. But of course, we all know that that's going to be changed, pushed out forever, really, or until Lincolnites get so sick of it, we start punching people out. As always, for comparison, the number of people who died of heart disease in 2019 is 485, which means that over the entire pandemic, more than 2 years now, the number of people who died of the virus is only 77% of the number who died of heart disease in only 1 year in 2019. So, if this virus is a pandemic in Lancaster County, then heart disease has got to be nothing less of an ongoing health disaster. The total Lancaster County confirmed cases is now at 59,590, up from last time. But again, I'm not tracking the individual weeks, so I don't really know if that's particularly meaningful other than people have got it. It very well may be that a lot of people have gotten the Omicron variant, which is basically a cold. Unfortunately, our Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department does not break things down by variants, which is kind of too bad. The number of positive cases that have recovered is 43,438. Now, I've said before that I'm not really sure what this actually means. What the recovered versus not recovered versus dead, what exactly that means. So I did have something that occurred to me, though, and it occurred to me not long ago when one of my nephews, who is fully vaxxed, got this virus for the second time. Twice. Fully vaxxed. Admittedly, this is just anecdotal. It doesn't represent anything. But totally vaxxed has had it twice. But what he didn't do at either instance was report that he got better. I mean, why would you? You're not in the hospital. You're at home, you're sick, you get better. You don't call the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County Health Department and say, "Hi, I just want to let you know I recovered fully." I think that's the difference in those numbers. The difference between the number of positive cases and the number who have recovered plus the dead. I think that number just means that they did recover, but the difference is largely people that never called anyone to tell them that they recovered. Why would you? That'd be a weird ass thing to do. Super Cruise, let's see, Jeanette saying, "Man, you were hoping for the invisible bottle." Yeah, sorry, not invisible today. I'm partly invisible, but I don't often drink the green ones anymore. Yeah, Schrodinger cat numbers was fun, but I think this may be more accurate in terms of what it really means. SuperCrew63 says, "You contracted the unnamed virus of unknown origin from, and I'm feeling fine. Had the flu-like symptoms for like 3 days, all better now." Cool. And you're fully vaxxed. Yeah. Oh, we just know how great these vaccines are. Just wonderful. As President Biden said in January, if you take the vaccines, you won't get it. So, what this probably means in terms of, the people who have recovered. I think this means that there is something on the order of 16,152 people who have probably recovered, but didn't bother to tell anybody. Which, again, that makes sense. Even that large a number makes sense. You get it, you go home, you're sick for a while. You're not going to pick up the phone and call the City of Lincoln, Lancaster County Health Department. You're just going, "Okay, I'm going back to work." I think that's what it really means. The total number of completed vaccinations in Lincoln, Lancaster County is now at 207,624, which means the percentage of the population that has been vaccinated is at 63.43%. Deaths as a percentage of confirmed cases is now slightly down from the last time we did it, at 0.634%. Deaths as a percentage of our population in total is 0.113%. Both of those are down a little. And I think what happened was we had a significant uptick in infections, which also resulted in an uptick of deaths. But the ratios are radically different, which is why you get these slightly smaller statistics, despite the fact that very few people, more people died. So, yes, Marshall says, we've talked offline. The Trump vaccine, yes. Speaking of which, given our other stats, rates of increase, aside from this one bump, which we're back down to that number of, 378.9. That number hasn't changed now in the better part of a week. I've had it up and watching it. Marshall says, technically, they are indeed undead. We have the dead number. All remaining are undead. Yes, well, I'll get myself a shotgun, and if I see any of them, I'll make sure to blow their heads off. So, couple of things. I want to talk to you about Twitter. For some time, for a number of weeks now, I've been involved in kind of an experiment. I'm curious whether posting on social media with the number of followers that I have makes any difference at all in my viewership. So what I did was, first couple of weeks, I did absolutely no advertising at all, so that I could get a baseline. What does it look like with no advertising? For the last several weeks, I've been advertising primarily on Twitter, only on Twitter. And the results have been what I unfortunately expected, which was zero impact. Tomorrow, I will be doing my last advertisement on Twitter, and then I'll be moving to Facebook, where I'll advertise exclusively for some period of time. Then I'll quit there and go advertise on other social media platforms to see if anything at all will, bring my numbers up. My suspicion is it will not. I think that having the social media stuff be effective means that you need to have your channel needs to be popular in the first place, such that people will follow you on social media and then will see when you post a new video. Although if you're popular in the first place, they're going to hit the notification bell and going to find out about it anyway. But it sometimes works. It's just ridiculous, but I don't think it's making the slightest difference to me. I think I need to be popular first, and then it will come. The other thing about Twitter is, God, for the last 48 hours, I have had a creeper. We got into talking about some of the same stuff I'm going to talk about tonight. In fact, I cribbed from our various tweets some of the exact stuff that I'm going to talk about. And this guy, he's woke, of course, and he doesn't want to believe the Rasmussen poll that I'm about to give out the numbers for, and he started creeping me. He would sit on my account and wait for me to post something, tweet something, and then he'd retweet it with some kind of snarky remark. It got pretty bad. It was like every time I tweeted something, there he was. And I'm like, get a life. I don't understand how anybody can do that. Decide, okay, I'm going to sit on this one person's account and just retweet and laugh at everything he tweets. I don't get it. You don't have a life? I guess this is just wokeness rearing its ugly head, as always. Hey, Dalton, how you doing? How about the Getter's recent popularity? I don't have any specific... I don't really have any kind of opinion about it one way or the other, I guess. I don't know enough about what's going on to bother. I have not been paying as close attention to politics as I did when I was doing this on a weekly basis. As I mentioned when I did my farewell tour video, there are stressors in my life that get better, that some get worse. But regardless, sitting on top of politics really hard is a bad stressor for me. So I don't do it nearly as much. Dalton says, seems like a honeypot. Again, I really have no specific opinion about it at the moment. That's just because I don't know that much about it. I've been busy on the darkroom side of things, releasing 2 or 3 videos a week, and I haven't really been paying attention to some of that stuff. So I don't really have any kind of opinion one way or the other. I'll take a look at it and see if I can't come up with an opinion. But it won't be on a stream particularly. This is a one-off. I can't do this every Thursday, unfortunately. And I don't know when I'll be able to do it again every Thursday. So we'll see. We'll see. I will eventually, but still can't. I'm just angered at this point by the fact that nobody will tell the truth. You know, nobody will walk through. There are some people on Twitter who have figured it out. Jewish people, in particular, have figured out what's going on. But, you know, yeah. Anyway, did I get a copy of Mind's Eye? Yes, Jeanette, you are on my list. I have videos for all of them, even the ones you didn't know about. And I have... I still have a problem. Those videos, I was supposed to get some equipment, basically a scratch drive that I could put into my computer so that I could do longer videos. And haven't gotten that because when I ordered it, Amazon or whoever lost it, and they're in the process finally of actually getting me a refund. So now I have to go through and find a similar thing that hopefully Amazon won't kill. But as soon as I do, I'm going to start posting those videos. Absolutely. Marcia says you prefer Gab over Getter. Getter's, in terms of service, is pretty much the same as Twitter's. Gab is much better. I don't spend any time on it for reasons that I've talked about before, because it has a dopamine addiction issue, and so I try to stay off as much as possible. I have to admit, Twitter has drawn me in from time to time, rather than just me pulling back and saying, okay, just advertising. Occasionally it draws me in. It's the addiction at work, and I'm hoping now that I'm going to be dumping Twitter, at least in the near term, as a marketing platform, that maybe it won't be an issue. Oh, well, I know a snippet would be good. I'll see about maybe doing a clip next week. I have started it. Well, I'll talk about that towards the end. I've started a new series. I had done all the Superman stuff. Now I'm doing a new series, Flash Gordon. And I sometimes look for things that I can put in on, because I release on Thursday and Fridays. And I'm sometimes looking for things for the Friday one. Thursday will be Flash Gordon. Friday will be something else. So let me see what I can do about that for you. Anyway, back to Twitter. I had this creeper just all over me. And we eventually got to the point where we were talking, where he started reporting me for things that I think were frivolous, but I can understand that Twitter being run by the woke, they may feel otherwise. Then when he told me he was trolling me, I threw up an animated GIF that's a copy of like the Red Alert animation from the Star Trek movies, the original cast movies. But instead of it saying alert condition red, it says alert condition troll. Now, what I usually do with a troll like that is I put that up the moment they say anything to me. If they reply back, I throw it up again. If they reply back, I throw it up again. And I keep doing this and doing this and doing this until finally they get frustrated and go away. Well, this twerp and his friends started reporting me for posting that GIF too much. So there's every possibility that I may lose my Twitter account sometime soon. I don't know for sure. If it happens, I will not be bothering to get another one. The place is toxic and it's horrifying. I've said it a million times. It's horrible. It's a horrible place. It's run by the woke. Only their ideas are allowed on the platform for sure. And it's just toxic and it is addictive. So Dalton says, yeah, you tried using Twitter casually. You failed miserably, so you deleted it. Yes, if they actually delete my account, I'm just going to take the app off of my phone and probably be happier for it. As it is, after tomorrow when I'm done advertising, I'm pretty much gone from there. I don't intend to look back. You've never joined Tweetdom. Count yourself lucky. You are one of the few human beings in the Western world who does not suffer from a literal chemical addiction. So good for you. Anyway, that's kind of how things are going with Twitter. I'm walking away from it voluntarily after tomorrow, and if I end up being, having my account, canceled and deleted, I ain't gonna look back. So, the big topic. Democrats are Nazis. Really. They actually are. And we know this because they outed themselves in a recent Rasmussen poll. Link to the poll below. I source everything. I never let you talk about stuff and not give you an opportunity to double check that I'm telling the truth. But that thing showed something very horrifying. 55% of Democratic voters would support federal or state governments to fine Americans who choose not to get a vaccine. 59% of Democratic voters would favor a government policy requiring that citizens remain confined to their homes at all times if they refuse to get a vaccine. 48% of Democrat voters think federal and state governments should be able to fine or imprison individuals who publicly question the efficacy of the existing vaccines on social media, television, radio, or in online or digital publications. Outright censorship. They want to fine or imprison you if you so much as question it in public. Fine or imprison you. Fine or imprison you. What does it sound like? What does it sound like? It's Nazi behavior. That's what it sounds like. They would also, 45% of them favor governments requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities or locations if they refuse to get this vaccine. What does that sound like? It's obvious. It sounds like going to a concentration camp. And I'm sure, the way that I hear them talk about it, in this big PR campaign going on, that they would love to exterminate us. But 47% of Democrats want us locked up. 29% of Democratic voters would support temporarily removing parents' custody of their children if parents refuse to take the vaccine. Look at all that crap. These are the exact same things that Nazis supported with respect to the Jews. There is no difference. It is exactly the same. Quick real, total violation of the First Amendment. Supercrude 63 says, yes, and they want it. The Democrats want it. They hate free speech, and they want it. Marshall says they're ardent supporters of the Trump vaccine. Yeah, well. Jeanette says, I've known it was going this way for almost 2 years. Yes, no government has ever backed down and apologized once they started down this path. You can always vote yourself into tyranny. You have to shoot your way out. Now, I'm making this comparison because it's apt. It's correct. It's true. These are all tactics the Nazis did. But, you know, Bill, I hear you saying, they don't want to kill the unvaxxed, so they can't be Nazis if they don't want anyone dead. Well, the Nazis didn't exterminate the Jews overnight. they had a protracted propaganda campaign to convince German populace that the Jews were evil, which is exactly like the exact same propaganda campaign that is being perpetrated by Democratic Nazis for the last 2 years. We are at a point that is frightening, that is so much like 1930s Germany. And by the way, I have spoken to Jewish friends about this, and they are as appalled as I am. They are not offended that I'm making this kind of a comparison. They are appalled. Appalled. I mean, if you'd told me 5 years ago that this could happen, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are. And it's all the Democrats. Now, if something isn't done, the unvaxxed, myself included, will ultimately be exterminated to the utter glee of the people who have fallen for this propaganda campaign. And man, have they fallen for it. It has been fantastically successful. Absolutely successful. Hands down successful. So many people believe that we are some kind of unclean lepers intentionally going around and giving people this virus, when nothing can be further from the truth. Most of us are incredibly healthy. Marshall says the parallels are indeed very close. Yes. I would also submit that these statistics that the Rasmussen Poll found, they're actually lowball. Jeanette says, you thought some Republicans agreed on that poll too. Yes, they do. There are Republicans who agree on that poll, but the divide is stark. It's stark. You know, Republicans are in like the teens, but the Democrats, in many ways close to a plurality, or a plurality of them out there, want this. They are Nazis. They want this. And I'm saying that those numbers in the Rasmussen poll are actually lowballed, because those statistics were from the people who would admit to their Nazi leanings and frankly speak the unspeakable. But now that we know, other Democrats know that their views are the majority or close to it, more and more Democratic Nazis will start coming out of the woodwork. And to make this all even worse, to compound it, the cities of Boston and New York City have now fallen to Democratic Nazis. You have to have papers to go or do much of anything, and I fully expect more cities on the coast to fall to the Democratic Nazis, and they have fallen. It's not just some little thing. They are gone. As American cities, they're dead. They are not American cities anymore. They are Nazi cities. And the coast won't be the only place affected, because Democratic Nazis, unfortunately, are fully entrenched throughout the entire United States. We have a Democratic Party office in Lincoln, Nebraska. The Democratic Nazi office in Nebraska. I mean, maybe they don't agree. I don't know. But they are part of an organization that, if you were to look at it from a military standpoint, we have a Nazi enemy that is entrenched throughout the entire country. More cities will fall to them. Jeanette says D.C. too. Absolutely, D.C. will fall to them. Like I say, a lot of coastal cities, a lot of major metro areas. I expect Chicago will fall to it. I expect Denver will fall. They have fallen. This is not some little thing of policy. They fell. They're no longer American cities. They're in the hands of an enemy who wants to kill you. Marshall says in Germany, only 10% were actually instigators of the Nazis. 30 is a terror. Yeah. These are 50s, 50% and more. And beyond those, I mean, there's a lot of people who have fallen for who are not Democrat Nazis, who have fallen for the propaganda campaign. And there's another thing about this, too, that I've certainly noticed through the course of my lifetime, and it's not complex. Beyond all of that, the fact is that Democrats love to hate. They are racists. They are sexists. They are if you want to throw anything like homophobic in there, they are. They have something in their psyche, and I don't get it, that simply isn't satisfied unless they can hate someone or some group with every fiber of their being. I do not understand this. I've said it before. I do not understand this seething hatred in their hearts. I've never personally experienced it in my heart. I don't have it. But it absolutely nothing will ever warm their heart unless they are hating people, murderously hating people like Nazis. Jeanette says DC already has fallen. Oh, I hadn't been paying that close of attention to it. Okay, well, DC fell to an enemy. The Democrats simply must detest something. It is somehow in their psychological nature. And believe it or not, even worse than all that is the fact that those who are in power, as I've said a million times, are power-mad, sociopathic narcissists. Said it a million times, I'll scream it again. Sitting on their shoulder is a little emperor of the galaxy who is screaming at them constantly, "Unlimited power!" If they got force lightning bolts coming out of their hands, they would. But they're going to see the Democrat Nazis' goals as something that is copacetic with their own, because it will allow them to gain even more power. Consequently, Republicans will eagerly go along with whatever Nazi policies that Democrat Nazis want to put forward. I don't know of any power-mad, sociopathic narcissist at any level of government who wouldn't say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's cart them off. Let's cart them off. Stick them in the ovens. Cart them off. Marshall says, hate or put their boot on others? Yes, a.k.a. totalitarianism. Been saying that for years, that fascism is primarily an artifact of the left. Yes, fascism, Nazism, racism, sexism, homophobia, all on the left. You will not find, for years they've been saying, oh, everybody on the right is a Nazi. No, guys, the Democrats are the Nazis, and this is the proof. So, you got to ask yourself, what the hell can we do about this? Marshall and I have talked offline. He thinks to some extent they can be shamed. I don't think so. I think when you get them in a group, it doesn't matter. They'll probably murder you for shaming them. The one thing they cannot stand is to feel somehow inferior. Marshall was suggesting you use the term when talking to them about it, the Trump vaccine, because it tends to short-circuit their brains, and I'm sure it does. But when you're coming to a group of people who literally want to send you off to a detention facility, when they want to take away your children, when they want to fine you, imprison you, you're just off into Nazi territory. And once they've figured out that they have a plurality in their own parties, the sky's the limit in terms of what they can do. Super Cruise 63 says even the NASCAR race at the LA Coliseum will require vaccination papers or proof of negative test to get in. Yes, I know. We don't have anything like that yet here. None of our venues have done that. I expect it to happen. We have 4 universities filled with young people who are communists and socialists. Our schools, all of them, we've got 10 or so, maybe more. I haven't counted lately because every time I look, the city gets big enough that they add another school. But we have grade school, middle school, high school, all of which are run by communists and socialists, and they do not teach our children a damn thing. I've told this a million times. They can't even read, write, or perform the most basic math when they walk out, but by God, are they good little communists. All of these people have a seething hatred in their heart. All of these people would like to see me in a concentration camp. And if I won't kowtow to their demands, they would love to see me dead. These people are murderous. They are, in fact, Nazis. Democrats are Nazis. So again, what do you do about it? What the hell do you do? They have left us with very little avenue of recourse. What are you going to do? Vote? So you vote out a Democrat. Another one comes in who's a Nazi. Maybe a Republican will come in who will say, I'll go along with the Nazis because I get more power that way. Is voting actually going to help at all? You know, if voting helped, if voting changed everything, it would be illegal. Really. So what can you do? This is where I have to be very careful about what I say. Because I have an idea. But I utterly loathe it. I don't want to see it happen. But when you are faced with Nazis who are firmly entrenched in every major city, minor city, and state in the United States, every single one, all I can say is a general statement that Nazism is abhorrent and should be crushed anywhere that it exists. That's true of Germany in 1938, and it is true now anywhere in the world that Nazis exist. Jeanette said, I figure I will end up not being able to leave my farm. Well, you got a farm. That's a good idea. Be prepared to defend it. They'll come for it. But Bill, I hear you say in rather shocked tones, what about the zero aggression principle? These are just words. You know, this is just some kind of a poll that doesn't actually hurt anybody. But unfortunately, no, they're no longer words. Democratic Nazis have taken 3 or so, probably more, of America's major cities and are working on more of them. They have now, by doing that, by taking them, and by forcing everyone to wear masks and God knows what else, you know, and have permission to go here and go there, limit the number of people that can come into your business, and, you know, on the street, your papers, please. No, this is absolutely an initiation of force on grand scale. This is no longer words. This is an initiation of force on grand scale, and it is always ethical to use force to stop initiated force. I don't like that. But I don't see any other path. They are pig-headed, they are stubborn, they will not listen to reason, and if you piss them off too much, God knows what they'll do. I see no other path to victory. When you get this many Nazis, Nazism anywhere is abhorrent and should be stamped out, no matter where it is. Now, if you're going to do something about this, for God's sake, don't tell me. I have a big mouth, as is clear from this show, and probably would be one of the first to be rounded up by the Democratic Nazis. So what I don't know can't hurt anyone. And if you are going to do something, do it intelligently. God, the number of times something like this comes up where people go, yeah, I'm just going to go do things. No, you got to organize. You have to do it intelligently. There basically would have to be resistance cells. Go read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert A. Heinlein. We don't have the AI yet, although we're getting close to it. But The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is nearly a textbook for revolution. Marshall says the UK just announced that all of their restrictions will be dropped in March, that they are the first. Oh, you kidding? You think that's going to stay? They're not going to keep it that way. They will put them back in. And by the way, I know some Scottish people. It doesn't apply to them. A couple of my Scottish friends are really pissed off. It doesn't apply to them. It only applies to the southern part of that island. It's not the UK. It is only the southern part of that island. And if you think that it's going to stay that way, then I have a very large plot of land in Florida that I want to sell you. Because look at the world. It is not going to remain that way. This is the tool of power-mad, sociopathic narcissists and Nazis. They are not going to just leave it alone. It's like our mask order, right? We've had them on and off and on and off. And ultimately what it really means is that okay, the populace is getting pretty pissed off, so let's take it away. But we'll put it back in 3 weeks, which is what has happened. If anybody thinks that any kind of restrictions that they've got are going to be permanently lifted, again, I got a nice piece of land to sell you. But anyway, if you're going to do something about this, do it intelligently. There's a lot of blowhards out there who say that they're going to do stuff stupidly in a way that will not work, that will probably get them killed in the attempt. Marshall says their economy is at the breaking point, meaning the UK. They have no choice. Who cares? They don't care about the economy. They care about power. And if that means that the populace gets to live in utter poverty, they'll do it. It's certainly the case in the U.S. And as you say, our economy is past the breaking point. The number of businesses in Lincoln, Nebraska that are completely shuttered and have been for some time and will never reopen is astonishing. I haven't been down to Chicago. When I was going back and forth to see my kids for several years, I watched the suburbs where they lived degrade. They were there all the time, so they never saw it. But I was there once or twice a month, so I got to see how it all went downhill. And that was certainly the case of the city. When I first moved to the city, stupid me, total side story. I knew nothing about Chicago, right? I pulled into it with my car and basically had a big sign on my back that said, just moved here from Nebraska. So I didn't know anything about Chicago, but, I thought, well, here's one way to learn about it. I will just go on walkabout. I will walk around the city and find things out about it. Well... Turns out I accidentally walked into the Cabrini Green housing project, which is fortunately gone now. I don't think that I was ever in any physical danger because of that. I think they were more surprised to see a white guy wandering through a totally black neighborhood than anything else. And I didn't think about it because, I don't care what your skin color is. I didn't even give it a second thought. It was like, oh, that's interesting. A lot of black people here. It's a black neighborhood. Anyway, a number of years after I did that, I had occasion to drive around some of the same places that I had walked around. Shuttered. Absolutely shuttered. And every time I've gone into the city, it's getting more and more and more shuttered. It isn't even necessarily due to the virus. It's just that city is in collapse. So, I wouldn't want to go there. I'd be curious to see what it looks like. I assume it's pretty much empty. And, there's a city that, God, if you're still living there, why? Why would you live in Chicago? The state of Illinois is in a giant race with California to see who can go bankrupt first, at best. Jeanette says Austria announced that the jab will be mandatory for all adults. Yeah, well, that's what the democratic Nazis want. And they want to have harsh consequences if you don't. They're evil. They're just plain evil. And again, if you're going to do something about this, you've got to do it intelligently. You can't be stupid. Some loner going off and shooting somebody, nobody is going to fly along with that. You have to be intelligent. I would advise you to seek out the assistance, the advice, and of the people who are in the military, who can be trusted, ex-military personnel. I know from teaching my veterans, I haven't talked to them lately, but I have to wonder if this hasn't put them over the edge. They got lots of experience. They know how to fight a war. Because make no mistake, that's what it's about to be, is a war. Because what the Democrats want will probably get passed, but then there's going to be a large number of people who don't want to go along with it. Anytime you get involved in a venture like that, you must be paranoid as hell. I can't even describe to you how paranoid you have to be. Treat anything and everyone as something that could betray you or give you away. If you're going to come up with plans, keep in mind that they could be found out or betrayed by an insider. Be really, really paranoid. Make sure that anyone you work with is neither a Democrat Nazi nor an agent of government, because, as we know from watching Biden heavily politicize law enforcement, that the Democratic Nazis now control it. Do not, under any circumstances, inflict any kind of collateral damage. To begin with, it's a violation of the zero aggression principle. If someone's not raised a fist to you, if someone's not initiated force against you, it is not ethical to kill them. It's one of the things that you have a real problem with in warfare. You're trying to get the soldiers, not the innocent people. Similar thing here. The only people that must be dealt with are Nazis. If you damage anyone or anything else, then the public's going to turn on you. You have to be very careful, and you have to be very specific about what you're doing. Dalton says, I struggle to be optimistic, but I think pessimism is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't think a national divorce is out of the reach. Soviet Union dissolved in our lifetime gives me hope. Democratic Nazis will never allow it, and I'm unclear that dissolving the United States or breaking it into pieces is a good idea from a geopolitical standpoint. It would immediately weaken everyone. And there are lots of countries out there who would love to invade us. By the same token, I've said before that maybe it is time to do that. On a philosophical level, I totally agree with you. But again, Dalton, when you think about pessimism being a self-fulfilling prophecy, I just rattled off statistics from Rasmussen. If you are not very, very pessimistic after knowing what the Rasmussen statistics in their polling data is, that nearly or sometimes over a plurality of Democrats want to be Nazi-esque, I don't know how to be optimistic about that. Again, these are people who will not listen to reason. Never. They will never listen to reason. It doesn't matter whether you have something that's irrefutably true. They will never listen to reason. I have tried and tried, and it is a pointless waste of time. But Nazis shouldn't exist anywhere. Jeanette says Czechoslovakia had a velvet divorce. Hopefully we could do that. I don't know. Kind of doubt it. The Democrat Nazis are not going to go along with that. They really aren't, because it reduces their power. Same thing with anybody at the federal level. Your local city councilman up to the federal level. These are all people who want power. If you break up the United States, that will reduce their power. I don't think it's going to fly. What they want is to kill you. And I don't see a way out of it. You can't just mock them. You can't try to reason with them. It won't work. God knows I've tried. And I got a God, a fucking creeper. Sorry. I got a creeper on my Twitter right now who's trying to get me kicked off. He won't listen to reason. I gave him the exact same statistics that I just did here. You won't listen to reason. None of them will. And, of course, his friends are out there, trying to make fun of me. None of them are going to listen to reason. They will never listen to reason. They are totally unreasonable. They feel. That's all they have. They feel things. They have no intellect. These are guys who... I still know Democrats who think that Biden is doing a good job, when he is clearly suffering from dementia and it getting worse. I tried to watch that press conference he did, yesterday, and just couldn't make it through it. I was like, this poor guy. Elder abuse to have put him up there in the first place. By the way, an interesting thing. Side note. As you may all know, I am more or less in love with Tulsi Gabbard, former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. I am also in love with Gina Carano. And between the two of them and, perhaps some other people, I could go for a harem. But an interesting thing happened today. If you go over to Congresswoman Gabbard's YouTube, because she's pretty active on YouTube. If you go to her YouTube page, you're going to discover that she put out just a clip this morning that called out Joe Biden, President Biden, for his authoritarianism. And this came as a shock to me. A Democrat criticizing a Democrat, which tells me that she's got some level of, actual ethics. That little short clip, and it's maybe 20 minutes long, if you post that to Twitter, it marks it as sensitive content. All she did was say, maybe we shouldn't screw around with Ukraine and Russia. Maybe we don't want a war with them, as opposed to damn near everybody else. Every Democrat in sight is just absolutely warmongering from that. And forgive me, I cannot see where that's of any interest to the United States at all. Why does that have any interest to the United States? There's no national interest that I can see in it. I feel sorry if it happens to the Ukrainians, but I see zero national interest in getting involved in that conflict whatsoever. Fortunately, while he talks a good talk, Biden's totally incompetent, so no matter what he says won't matter when they roll into town. God, the number of people in Washington who are like, we got to protect him. We got to protect him. And I'm like, dudes, can you tell me why? Because Russia. Yeah, okay. That means we'd be fighting them. Do you really want to do that? Oh, it's terrible. And the Democrats are the worst ones of all. Dalton says, I'm working toward the best outcome and preparing for the worst. I hope that there's somewhere to work for. I have nowhere to work for the best outcome. I don't see it coming. I don't know how to work for it. You have, Jeanette says, same Dalton, but I have fast lost hope. This Rasmussen poll, these guys are reputable. They do a good job on their polling. But this Rasmussen poll, that convinces me that, yes, modern Democrats, a plurality of them, are Nazis. And there is no other way to put it. They're engaged. They want horrible Nazi-esque things. They are engaged in a protracted propaganda campaign, precisely like that done to the Jews prior, because they couldn't just go out and round them up and kill them. First, they had to convince everyone else that they were unclean, that they were greedy, that all of the horrible economics that country had endured that were foisted on it at the end of World War I were the fault of the Jews. Well, guess what? Here we are, and everyone's being told that I'm fucking Typhoid Mary out there, that I'm the one who's personally going out and making people sick, when absolutely nothing could be further from the truth. My nephew, twice, fully vaxxed, twice. And trust me, he and I, it's not that I dislike him at all. In fact, I do like him quite a lot. But we have not had any contact to speak of. He's got his life, I've got mine. It rarely intersects, that's all. Supercruise 63 says, fighting with Russia can only have one outcome. It's not good, yes. An attack by Russia is likely trigger for China to invade Taiwan, which is effectively national death for us. Yes, but these warmongers, the Democrat Nazis in particular, not that the Republicans are totally without, they're all insane, but they want it. They want this war. I have no idea why. Apparently, they're just fantastically stupid, or they're pandering to some level of their constituency that thinks that we ought to go with war with Russia or something stupid like that. I'm occasionally of the opinion, unfortunately. I occasionally, the thought slips through my head that maybe once a generation we need a bad war. Not something where it's Russia or a big country like that, but something that will leave a lot of American casualties and let American soldiers see firsthand the blood and the gore and the guts and the veins in their teeth and eating dead, burnt bodies. I think people need to be exposed to that, because if they're not, well, first you get this horrifying mess that is our popular entertainment. But beyond that, they're so stupid about it. They've never experienced it. They don't know anyone who's experienced it, that they think, oh, we'll just go have a war and then it'll be over and it'll be clean and nice and stuff. No, I hate to say it, but I think we need to have a war where lots of people, about once a generation, where lots of people see the horror so that they know that this is a piss poor, stupid idea they've gotten. Jeanette says that war will distract the peons from the war we want to have with them, so they think maybe. I don't know, maybe. I just look at it and I go, I can't believe. The Democrats, 1960s, peace, man, end the war in Vietnam. Now they're go after Russia. We can't let them do the invasion. We got to send military might over there. We got to send aid. We got to get involved. And be involved in that war. And why? Why, Democrats? How about peace, man? Like end the war, man. As I say, I think it's horrifying for me to come to this conclusion, but I think maybe it's just necessary to have a bad war once a generation to kill off a bunch of guys, or these days women, which is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I understand why they did it, but it's a stupid idea to have women in combat. Well, but anyway, I think we may have to occasionally have really bad wars so that people understand what bad wars are and how they need to be avoided at all cost. Marshall says, if you've never been on a hot battlefield, you understand why war, if you've ever been on, rather, you understand why war is to be avoided if at all possible. And all these woke schmucks, they're so coddled and they have this limited perspective of the world and a philosophy that doesn't match reality. Throw them on the battlefield and see how fast their tune changes. Yes, Marshall says, and if it can't be avoided, if it's not able to be avoided, it should be fast, overwhelming, brutal, and short. Yes. But now we have, my generation never went to war. The one after did, but the two after that haven't. They're coddled and lead very, very safe lives. Maybe we should have a program. Well, you can't do that. But I think maybe an occasional war, a bad one, is necessary so that people know what it's like. And we get these warmongers, probably my generation, a lot of them, who never had to go to war for themselves. And so they don't know. I don't know what it feels like. I can imagine to some extent, but I know my imagination would be wrong. I don't know it. I'm close enough to like Vietnam and Korea and even World War II because my parents both served in, grandfathers both served in it, that I can hear things. I can see some of the more accurate movies, you know, like Saving Private Ryan. And I can see, oh my God, that's horrifying. And, you know, sort of imagine, what if I was on Omaha Beach? Oh my God. You know, but we really need to have people on Omaha Beach. We need to have 2,500 Americans killed in one battle over a period of only several hours, so that people know how bad it is. Not just imagine it, not, you know, think of it as a video game, but actually experience the horrors of war so that they never want it again. I had a side thing that I was going to go into, but I can't remember where it was. A side story. So, oddly enough, it's only been about an hour, and that's fine. As long as YouTube doesn't take this down, I'm going to be pulling it down myself the moment that I get done. I would like to mention my second channel. I'm pretty active on that second channel. And again, you can throw out any questions or comments or nasty remarks that you want at this point. But I do have a second channel that I've been spending a lot of time on. I've got quite a number of videos up there. It is the Tales from SYL Ranch Darkroom. It is a link to the channel below. I post what I call, you know, because I discovered that putting things like upscaled or interpolated and something like that, Marshall says, yes, Bill, it's truly unimaginable. I believe it. I believe it. I mean, I can see it, but I can imagine that I would be terrified, that I would be watching my friends, you know. I go watch the first part of Saving Private Ryan. I can imagine something like that, but I cannot imagine what it would be like for me to actually be there. You know, I can imagine, okay, this is bad, this is terrible, Omaha Beach, that's awful. But the notion of my actually being there, that I can't imagine. You're absolutely right. It's unimaginable unless you've been through it. It's unimaginable, which is why we need to send more people to it. I don't want a war with Russia. That sucker might be really destructive. But, you know, pick a fight with somebody that will probably win against, but, you know, would cause just a crap ton of bloodshed, and let people see the unimaginable. Yes, Jeanette, you should be able to watch this later on demand, but the subject matter is such that I'm unclear that YouTube will allow me to keep this up. I've been circumspect enough that they haven't cut me off midstream, which is a good thing. But whether or not this will stay up constantly is hard to say. Anyway, my second channel, I'm linking below, I do these remastered videos where I take either clips from copyrighted material. Excuse me. Yeah, keep it up long. Oh, I'm not going to take it down. I'm not planning to take it down. I'm going to download it myself. 4K video downloader. If you don't know 4K video downloader, you should. It is the best option for downloading YouTube videos in extremely high definition, the originals. I use it all the time to pull down things up to 4K. So it's a great thing. 4K video downloader. Search for it. It's a great tool. They have a free version, a paid version. I pay for it because I think it's so awesome. But if it goes down, it won't be because of me. I'm leaving it up permanently. But if YouTube decides that I have crossed the line, maybe. Anyway, I do these videos, and if you haven't watched them, I do them. Sometimes I do them with clips of copyrighted material. Most of the time, I mean, almost everything, by the way, almost everything on that channel has a copyright claim from someone else. And I don't mind that because I'm not actually creating new work. I'm taking someone else's and just adding information to it. It's not mine. I'm not the actors. I'm not the people involved in special effects. I'm not the director. Nobody. So I don't mind if they take it. Occasionally, I have had it where somebody will say, no, I'm not going to do that. They'll block it instantly when it goes up, and then I will contest it, and it'll briefly be back up, and then the party who I'm contesting it with will decide no, and it'll be blocked again, and then I usually delete those. I'm thinking very, very hard about putting those videos up on my Patreon, so that, and I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm thinking too, because I tend to think that everybody involved in the streaming world right now has got their heads up their asses. I can't justify 5 different streaming services, for God's sake. It's why I go to the high seas. I think you should pay a very small amount per episode. Maybe $1 an episode for something. $5 even. But they've all got their heads up their asses until they get them out. I'm going to be going to the high seas. Similarly, if I have these videos that YouTube won't let me post and I put them on my Patreon, I want to figure out a way, because they're not big videos or anything, pay a quarter per video. I don't have my head up my ass. Supercruise63 says, your uncle drove landing craft to and from the beach at Leyte Gulf in World War II. Oh my God, the horror. Oh, I can't even imagine. I really can't, having a number of people lost just getting off of those landing craft. Oh my God. Marshall says IPFS. Yes, that's certainly a possibility. There are a number of places I could do it. I'm just thinking experimentally on Patreon. Would anyone pay 25 cents to see a, remastered Shania Twain Forever and for Always? Let me look real quick. I've got a list of the stuff that's been banned that they won't put up. Darkroom. And then we get to, I got some on Do Not Upload because I know it'll be rejected. Oh, yeah. I got one that I really like from 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's the entire segment of Jupiter and Beyond, because that's really cool in 4K and 48 frames per second. But no way are they going to let something that long go on. And unfortunately, it just doesn't have any emotional impact if you're just taking little clips of, the acid trip. I also have a remastered song from the Muppet movie, The Rainbow Connection, which is one of my favorite songs. Back when I was an actor, I actually used that as an audition piece. Although in one instance, when we were doing a variety show, the director flat out said, no, we're not going to do any Rainbow Connection. But it's one of my favorite songs. Shania Twain, Up, live in Chicago, the song Up. And Saturday Night Live, this one I like, and it came out really well. It's the Jane, You Ignorant Slut one. If you don't know what that one is, it's a point-counterpoint between Jay Curtin and Dan Aykroyd on the Weekend Update. And there's a line in there. It's just hysterically funny. Dan Aykroyd's delivery and the timing is just amazing. Thank you for subscribing, SuperCruise63. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's a line that, when I was in first part of middle school, that's when Saturday Night Live was big, when they were actually like funny. When Saturday Night Live was big and this came on, and everybody I knew thought it was hysterical. But at that age and at that time, nobody called women sluts back then. And early part of middle school, I don't even think I knew what one was. So I said to somebody in a class, I said to a girl, that line. And boy, did I get in trouble. So anyway, that's one of them. I have the Superman from Superman 1978, the helicopter rescue. I also have the airplane rescue from Superman Returns, because they blocked both of those, and I thought, okay, whatever. I also have I've got one from a film called Target Earth that I find interesting for other reasons that I might or might not put up on something like Patreon or IPFS, as Marshall says. IPFS is a really interesting way to do a distributed file sharing and stuff, I kicked it around. It's not a bad idea. All of these other services can be cut off from me at any time. By the way, if you'd been donating to my show via PayPal, they shut down my PayPal account for the show. I don't know why. They offered no explanation other than I had violated the terms of service. They didn't tell me what I violated. I'm trying to figure out, wait, how did that happen? Why did they think I violated? Is it my content? Is it the fact that you disagree with me politically? I suspect that's it. Anyway, I put all these videos up there, and I'm thinking about putting some that don't make it up there onto Patreon. I also have public domain ones up there. If you've seen, the most beautiful one I've got, most beautiful video I have is the first Fleischer Superman cartoon from 1941. I have decided to go ahead, and I'm doing yet another series. I did all of them. Kind of moved around a bit. You'll pin my content. Well, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Marshall. So I did all those Superman ones, and now I'm starting on Flash Gordon, 1936, the first Flash Gordon serial. It's not nearly as pretty because there are no negatives. You're dealing with prints that are from 1936. I have the best prints, but there's still issues with it, and it's mostly things, I think, the issues that are fixable, I will be able to fix, but there's a lot of stuff that's not. It's a print. It's not a negative, unfortunately. So do best I can. Just do the best I can. I'm also that's going to be every Thursday from now on. Is going to be an episode of that until that serial's over, and then. Let's see, this afternoon, that's when I re-released the second episode of the 1936 Flash Gordon, link below. Tomorrow, I'm releasing a remastered version of the opening titles to that rather awesome fan series, Starship Farragut. I also have a link to that below, but if you go to there now, it's not going to be there. I have it set as with those videos, I set them up in advance to just auto-release. So the URL will work tomorrow after 1 p.m. Central Time. But the opening titles to Starship Farragut, if you want to go look at Starship Farragut, please do. Great fan series. Great Star Trek fan series. Jeanette, you need another channel? Cool. Sorry, but catch the rest on demand. I'd gone through the part that's going to really piss me off, so catch you later. I'm glad to see you here. Anyway, it is an awesome fan series, and if you go and look at the opening titles, even in 1080p, it's pretty damn beautiful. But when you get it up to 4K and to 48 frames per second, it's really nice. So put that up. And by the way, if you can get a hold of anybody from Starship Farragut to ask their permission to do this, I would love to do it. I tried for several months to get in touch with somebody so that I could ask them, do you mind if I do this upscaling and put it on my channel, or if you like, I'll give it to you for your channel. No answer of any kind, so I'm just doing it. If they dislike it, I will absolutely take it down. That's one of the things about my video. If you've got some claim on it and you don't want it up there, it's gone. Yeah, like that. I will not do anything in terms of suggesting that, I should keep it. Yep. Super Crew 63 and Marshall saying goodnight to Jeanette. So, yeah. That's pretty much everything horrible that I have to say. If you can figure out a way to liberate this nation from the Democrat Nazis who now overrun it and are taking our cities one by one, and want to put me and anyone who's not vaccinated into an internment camp or worse, then, have your children taken away. If you can figure out a way to stop that without it becoming anything that might move in the direction of military action, for God's sake, tell me. Come up with your own videos and put them out there, because I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do. When you've got a populace that's that far gone. I don't know what to do other than make some examples and see if the rest of them get the memo. I don't know. So I guess that's pretty much, unless anybody has anything else they want to ask, say, or etc. It's a relatively short show, about an hour and 15. That is pretty much all that I've got to say about that. I would, of course, like to keep the conversation going, so please leave your comments. Oh, yeah, there's something I can talk about. Have I been watching Book of Boba Fett? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. As with the other Jon Favreau show, Mandalorian, I'm very happy with it. I do not get why anybody is down on that. I've seen a lot of it where people are down on that. It's like, oh, that's not the character of Boba Fett. Even the actor, oh, that's not really Boba Fett. I wanted to make sure that the lines get to somebody else. And I'm like, what? To begin with, Boba Fett had like 5 minutes of screen time between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Like 5 minutes. I think he had 3 lines. Okay, we don't know this character. We have not seen him. We just know he's a bounty hunter that got thrown into the pit of the Sarlacc pit, apparently to die. We don't really know anything about him. You know, I guess he had some screen time, you know, in the first and second, episode 1 and episode 2, but we don't know anything about him. You know, that's not enough to make any judgment about the character. So I'm unclear why anybody's going on about it. Marshall says, great show. Oh, thanks, Marshall. I'm not quite gone, but I will be soon. And Ming Na Wen looks damn good for 58 years old. Yes. I'm happy that I just lost enough weight to be able to fit into this particular shirt, and I can button up with just a little, you know, looseness. I've lost some weight. I'm still trying to get down to about 165. It'll be a while before I get there. But the fact that I could put this on and, you know, button it all the way up, oh, awesome. She's in much better shape than I am, despite the fact that she's only a year older than I am. She's one of the same people. She's one of the same people that, you know, she's, I want to have Tulsi Gabbard and, why am I blanking? Tulsi Gabbard and her, among other things, in my harem. I will take Ming Na Wen, absolutely. The problem is I think she's good enough physically that she might be able to kick my ass and escape. But I like the show. I like the show very much. I see these people over YouTube and Twitter who are real down on it. They say, oh, this isn't the character of Boba Fett. And my whole thing, how do you know? We saw him for very brief periods of time. I mean, he caught, you know, Darth Vader gave him Han Solo. He took Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt. Again, about 3 lines. I think, does he have 2 lines in Empire? As you wish, and he's worth a lot to me alive. Does he have any other lines in Empire? He has none in Jedi, none at all, and then he dies like a bitch, or apparently dies like a bitch. And even if we had some notion that he was once absolutely ruthless and stuff, there's spoilers for this show, by the way. You know, we've now seen how he got out of the Sarlacc pit and wound up where he is, you know, in a long period of time. And I'm like, so why can't somebody change, you know, as a character when they have burned their way out of the stomach of a Sarlacc, crawled up through the sand in order to lay on the sand, gets picked up by sand people and brought in as one of their own? Wouldn't that have an effect on somebody's personality? Why are you guys bitching about this? This is a good show. You know, and we didn't know what this guy was. You want to know what this guy's like? Watch the Star Wars Holiday Special cartoon he was in, because that's where he gets most of his screen time. He has almost no screen time and almost no lines in the actual films. The only place he does is in that cartoon. And if you think that that cartoon is indicative of Boba Fett's personality, then you're an idiot. So, but no, I like that show. I like it a lot. And Superman and Lois is back. I've been a little less thrilled with that. As I've always said, you have this, you still don't have the kind of family drama, but they've introduced some that I don't think it was necessary to introduce. And they're keeping with this notion this season of superpowered evil Supermen. And that's just so done to death. I'm hoping, I don't really dislike it, but there's a weird balance with superheroes where you have to have enough action and enough character development. For season 1, that balance was really good for Superman and Lois. So far, the balance is tipped a little more towards the whining, and we don't want that. Marshall says, a static character is an unrealistic and uninteresting character. J. Michael Straczynski. Yeah. I mean, we didn't know much about him to start with, and he's been through all these things that would change a person. He said, okay, I'm not going to do bounty hunting anymore. I'm going to be the guy in charge, So that makes sense to me. He's old enough, guy's been around since the Clone Wars. He's got to be 20. He had to have been around 20 to 30 years, and he's had all this stuff happen in his life. And finally he just said, I think I'm going to run the show. Okay, fine. And even the actor bitches about it. And that's another thing that just floors me about some of this. Just floors me. Same thing with G4 TV, if you've been watching the nonsense behind that. Some idiot that I know their name is Frosk. They came out and decided that they were going to do a giant feminist rant that succeeded in completely alienating their male audience. And they just were starting up again after having been off. Guys, if you want to be successful, do not alienate your target audience right out the bat. And she's not the only one. And the same thing, forgive me, I don't remember the name of the guy who plays Boba Fett. But he did the same thing. He was going on, well, I don't think that Boba Fett should have had lines. I think that, it's not Boba Fett. Like, dude, how do you know? But he comes out and is trashing his own show. And the G4 TV people are out there trashing the audience. If any other job, like an IT job like I had, right? If I go out and I publicly badmouth the company or publicly manage to alienate potential customers, I'm going to be called in and at the very least really reamed out and probably fired. How is it that these people get away with it? I mean, I get that you can't say, okay, we're going to fire our lead. That makes problems. But you can drag them in on the carpet and give them a giant reaming that they will never forget. I can't figure out, why don't these companies do that? Why do they let these people go off on Twitter and other places when the only possible outcome is that you're going to reduce the number of customers you have? Why? How do they get away with this? I could never do it. So yeah, I like that a lot. What else am I watching? I'm not watching any of the Star Trek crap because it's written by that hack fraud. It's got that hack fraud Alex Kurtzman's name on it. And after last year, I finally just said, screw it. I'm done. After more than 50 years with this franchise, until he's gone, I'm done. He can't make anything any good. And the most irritating thing about it was somebody I saw on Twitter, some idiot was going on about how Star Trek had grown up. I'm like, grown up? Are you kidding? Star Trek has been reduced to the level of an adolescent. And they're like, oh, we're not going to have any more tribbles or anything like that. Like, you got the tribbles, if I recall correctly. But regardless, you can't have an episode that's just kind of fun. Because that's all that was. I mean, if you watch Star Trek, the original series, and all you take away from it is tribbles, that means you've never watched the damn show. And Star Trek has not grown up. It has moved into the territory of juvenile. It's hey Beavis, let's say fuck. It's juvenile. It's not grown up. It's juvenile. Dalton says, I completely agree with you in Boba Fett. They do a really good job of making it feel like the original trilogy. Yes, oh God. If Disney had slightest brain, they would put Kathleen Kennedy into a creative consultant position until her contract is up, and make Jon Favreau the guy who is really running Star Wars. Here's a guy who gets it. He really does. Again, he like you say, those things feel and look like his shows look and feel like the original trilogy. Everything else they've come out with by giving it over to that hack fraud J.J. Jar Jar Abrams, it's crap. He doesn't make anything but crap. He's fracked up Star Trek on the big screen with his crap. You need to get rid of these people. That's another thing I don't understand about some of these businesses. You can look and see that at the very best, fans are very divided about things. Why don't you hire someone who doesn't divide them? It's Kathleen Kennedy's fault, ultimately. She should have been gone when her contract was up. But regardless, Jon Favreau, he gets this completely. He totally gets what's going on. So hire him, please, for God's sake, hire him to be the executive producer, the overall creative mind behind the entire Star Wars IP. He gets it. Superguru63 says, I am kind of bummed that The Expanse is over. That was a great show and had a pretty good finish to the story. Yeah, I am too. I've been watching that too, another show, and it is good. It's been great. There is no other science fiction show that gets the science as well as that. Just hands down, nobody else has done it better. They could have been marginally better by making space silent, but otherwise, no complaints at all. Just a great show. My only complaint with that ending is, again, spoilers if you've not seen it, if you're not going to resolve the subplot about some animal that can bring you back from the dead, if you're just going to leave us hanging, then why have that subplot in the first place? The episode would have been fine. The multiple episodes would have been fine if you didn't have it. The story otherwise would have worked out on its own, and by the end you'd say, okay, well, we have closure. Walking away from that, I'm like, okay, we have closure on this part, but my God, we've cured death. What? Please. I want to know about that part. I had always intended to read the Expanse novels, but at that ending, knowing that they cure death, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to go and read all the novels now. I just have to. I can't let myself sit on that cliffhanger. If you're not going to, resolve the curing death part, don't get into it. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, that's another show I've been watching. What are some of the other ones? I've been catching up on some old Marvel animated series. Stuff like The Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is a TV series that's very different from the MCU. But I've been catching up with some of those, and that's not bad. It sort of almost requires a certain amount of knowledge about the Marvel lore, but it's not a bad show. What else have I been watching? I watched one episode of Santa Inc., and that was crap. I think I talked about that in a different video. Let me look for a second and see what I've actually been watching. So I will go to, somebody said something. Okay, that's just me. Blah, 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 blah. Let me go to my most favoritist High Seas site. By the way, there are a mountain of Russian sites, streaming sites, that will never be taken down. 123series.ru. Oddly enough, I had somebody make sure you have ad blockers and stuff. It's God knows what it'll look like if not. Supergood 63 says, good point on that. Seems like they forgot an episode. Yeah, I mean, that whole subplot just ended. Marshall says, well, if that's a cure, I'd rather have the disease. Protomolecular regeneration is not a good thing in your opinion. Yeah, but I mean, you set this. I'm sure that it resolves out to something like that, and it's actually bad. But we never got to see it. We never got to see it at all. If you're not going to show it to the viewer, then why do you go into it in the first place? Oh, Spider-Man No Way Home. Awesome having all three Spider-Man. Yes, that's also a great movie. Yeah, I paid money to see that in the theater because I, as always, I watched a screener because I'm never sure if something's going to be any good. That one I went to see in a theater because that was rather cool. And it wasn't something, too, one of the best things about that was it wasn't something where those were just side characters who came and went. They had an impact on the story. And the one that really blew me away, and other reviewers I've heard say it too, but I felt it before, Andrew, I've forgotten his last name, the most recent Sony Spider-Man after Tobey Maguire, he had a moment that was, his redemption moment, and it was very moving. I found that moment probably more than anything else. And see, I'd never even seen his movies. I'd never seen them because it was kind of done with, Sony at that point. I'm like, well, they make crap. But I knew, that in his movies he had accidentally killed Gwen Stacy, as had happened in the comics. And so to find out several years later that he's gotten a lot more driven, that he's stopped pulling his punches, and then for him to save MJ and have that moment, his redemption moment, was beautiful. More than any of the other parts of that story, I thought that moment was probably the best. And don't get me wrong, the rest of the movie was awesome, but that moment was I think wonderful. We did see the end of that. The POV shot from the re-entered kid tells the story, as does the blue Activision of the orbital station. Well, again, it tells the story in a way. It feels like the way that they'd handled all the previous seasons, where they ended on a cliffhanger, and you've got some idea, okay, this is where the next part's going to start. It feels like they ended too soon. Yes, there's some stuff in there, but we didn't have anything definitive like we have on many, many other plot points in The Expanse. It doesn't ruin it by any means. I thought, the general closure, and again, going forward that things are going to change very radically with respect to what we've seen in the show previously, because of how they, kind of wrapped up that whole issue with the innards and the belt. But it was a closure on that part of the story. The other part, it felt like, okay, we're going to have to see more of this, which is why I need to go and read the books now, because I need to know how all of that works out, in detail. I'd been thinking about reading them for some time, and I got into a couple of them, but by that point I'm watching it on TV and being just so incredibly impressed with how well they did, the science behind the science fiction. It's really the only hard science fiction show that's been on TV in a long time. Marcia says the next part starts 30 years later in screen time. Okay, I'm not shocked. I mean, I've looked at some of the novels. They cover a long period of time, so that doesn't surprise me. What was the other one that I was watching that was absolutely terrible? Extremely misandrist. I don't remember. Very misandrist show out there that... it's one that's been out for a while. I don't remember the name off the top of my head because it's just so forgettable. It's Y, the letter Y, The Last Man. And it's a story about suddenly, for no apparent reason, all male life forms on Earth just die. And it's so misandrist. You start off in the first episode treating men as all men are pigs, such that when you're dead, they're dead, you're almost glad they're gone. And it's misandrist throughout. It treats men like crap. It's not even remotely realistic, because let me tell you something. Ladies, I hate to tell you this. If all men died, you would die before the species would die off due to lack of reproduction. Ladies, I'm sorry to tell you this. Men go to war. Most of police are men. Most overwhelming majority of firefighters are men. Almost 100% of plumbers are men. People who work with high tension electricity wires, electricians in general, almost exclusively men. Now, could women do those skills? Yes, absolutely. But if all your men die off, how the hell are they going to learn? And they don't have things like what should have happened, which is, your generators are going to go out. You're going to have, natural gas that's going to go off into you'll have fires, you'll have explosions. It will be horrifying. So not only is it incredibly misandrist, it also is ridiculously stupid. And I made it through 2 episodes and said, screw this, no. Third season, Lost in Space, Super Cruise 63. Haven't got it yet. Maybe I'll pick some of that up tonight. Always on the lookout for something good, particularly if I can steal a clip from it and upscale it. That's become one of my goals. Find some stuff that I can do a clip of that our friends at YouTube won't object to too much, and the original copyright holders don't object to. And again, I post all this stuff. They always get copyright claims. I have no problem with it. This is not my original work. This is me throwing some software at someone else's original work. I think if anybody deserves money from it, it ain't me, it's them. So I don't even contest it most of the time. The only time I contest it is if they block it. And so far, I've had some come out. I did one for a Bee Gees video, music video for Staying Alive. I thought I was in trouble with that one. But the Bee Gees came back and no, that looks beautiful. Keep it up. So that was kind of cool. So like I say, I'll take a look at third season of Lost in Space. It's been a while since I tracked that down. So, we got some good stuff out there right now. It's Sturgeon's law still holds. 90% of science fiction is crap. And the first corollary to Sturgeon's law also continues to hold. 90% of everything is crap. So those are some of the things I've been watching and some of my general thoughts about it. And any of the stuff that I'm watching, I'm not seeing terrible special effects. I'm seeing decent direction, even when the show kind of sucks. Performances are good. Diane Lane is in that incredibly misandrist show. She's my age. Another woman I wouldn't mind having in my harem. I really think she's particularly attractive in, I'm not remembering for sure what the name of it is, L.A. Confidential, which is a sort of a docudrama about the death of George Reeves, man who played Superman in the 1950s. The period costuming just really works well on her. So again, adding people to my harem. So ladies, if any of you are watching and you find yourself not having a good time in your current relationship and you want to have a hankering for the upper Great Plains of North America, and you don't mind older men who are losing weight to be in better physical condition, give me a call. Give me a call. Now, that said, I'm actually starting to feel a little bit in my back. I have not actually sat here for that long, so What I'm doing now for my videos is also automated. I just sit down and, okay, turn it on, put it over here on this drive, because that's the one that's got space, and it's an SSD. So yeah. As always, mentioned before, I love to keep the conversation going. Please do comment, give me your comments, questions, and nasty remarks. And I will do my best to get back to you. And do like, sub, hit the notification bell, and if you're still on social media, which you shouldn't be, it's addictive, you can share me there. I'm not sure it'll matter, but you can share me there. And again, have a look at my second channel. I got some fun videos up there. I don't remember how many I've got. It's getting close to 60 or so that I've got up there, and increasing by 2 every week at least, sometimes more. Some of them are short, some of them are long, just depends. So, thanks for watching this very special episode of Tales from SYL Ranch. And I am Bill Stone.
Ultimate power in this world has always been one simple thing: the control and manipulation of minds.